Good evening. My name is Kobi Marom and I'm a retired colonel. I've been in the service for 25 years, most of the time in Lebanon. My last assignment was a brigade commander over the eastern section of the Lebanese border. Today I live in the Golan Heights. I'm a research associate in ICT, International Counterterrorism Institute, dealing mainly with Islamic radical groups all over across the Middle East, in Gaza, Sinai, Lebanon, and Syria. And my honor to be with you tonight. And I want to share with you my expertise and my knowledge about the situation along the Syrian border and the Lebanese border. We'll try to talk about, we're going to talk about the Israeli challenges along the Syrian border and the Lebanese border and how the civil war in Syria affect the international community interest in Syria and Lebanon. You know, we talk about the civil war that started 6 years ago. But in my point of view, what's happened in Syria, it's a genocide. Because Assad regime in the last 6 years actually killed over 750,000 people just because they are Sunnis. And we have over 9 million refugees all over Syria, Jordan, Turkey, and Lebanon. That's, in my point of view, the worst case incident that we had since World War II. And the question is why the international community didn't do anything when they knew exactly what's happening in Syria. Now, I'm not talking about boots on the ground, but the international community leading by the United States could do a lot of things in the last 5-6 years that would prevent from Assad to continue his genocide against his people. I think the international community could create no-fly zone above Syria like the Libya case. The international community could rearm, train and rearm the opposition groups all over Syria against Assad. None of those things actually had happened, and things that we could do 2 or 3, 5, 6 years ago, it's impossible today because we got in 2 years ago 2 radical Islamic groups, Al-Qaeda and ISIS. And in the last 12 months, we have Russia aggressive deployment over Syria that actually today, in my point of view, for example, it's impossible to create no-fly zone above Syria. Now, 2.5 years ago, we have a dramatic change along the border when Al-Qaeda and other rebels groups took control of the border between Israel and Syria and control the only gate that we have between Israel and Syria, the Quneitra gate. This is one of the major Israeli concerns, that those Al-Qaeda groups who are located along the 50 miles of the border between Israel and Syria will turn left their weapons tomorrow, next month, and will escalate the situation with Israel. That's why we deploy in the Golan Heights with the best special forces unit of the IDF, ready to act immediately if something is going to happen. The second issue that I would like to emphasize, you know, Iran located 1,000 miles away from here. But the chaos in Syria, the fact that Syria is not a country anymore, gave the Iranian regime a wonderful opportunity to create a terror infrastructure on the ground against Israel. That's why they brought their generals, that's why they brought their special forces unit and the Hezbollah from Lebanon, and they tried in the last 2.5 years to create a real terror infrastructure on the ground against Israel. So we have a civil war and the struggle between Assad and the opposition group, but under the radar actually we have also a struggle between Israel and the Iranian regime in the Golan Heights. The third point that I would like to emphasize is the issue of the red lines. You know, in our tough neighborhood, in my point of view, when you draw a red line, you must be able to use your military forces to keep this red line. And we said from the beginning of this conflict that what's happened in Syria, it's not our business, it's against our values, but we're not going to be part of it unless it's going to touch the Israeli vital interests. And actually it did, because we saw that the Iranian regime and the Assad regime tried to remove in the last 2.5 years advanced technology to the Hezbollah in Lebanon. When I'm saying advanced technology, I mean long-distance missiles that can target every Israeli target. Maybe chemical weapons, maybe anti-air batteries that can limit the Israeli capabilities above Syria and Lebanon. And we saw in the last 2 years that the Israeli Air Force attacked probably between 15 and 20 times over Damascus and along the border, those convoys that tried to remove advanced technology from Syria to Lebanon. And I think it's a very important message to the other players across the Middle East. When Israel said it's a red line, we're going to fight and use our military forces to keep this red line. The fourth point that I would like to emphasize is I want to say something about the Russian aggressive deployment of Syria. Let me tell you a secret this beautiful evening. Mr. Putin and Russia are not fighting for the American interest. I'm sorry about it. They're not. They want to keep their interest over Syria. Actually, the only navy base that they have over the Mediterranean Sea located in Latakia along the Syrian coast. They want to keep Assad in his positions. But it's much more than that. With their aggressive strategy over Syria, they want to become the key player in this game. They're already there. Today, the Russians are leading the reality in Syria. They use a clear decline of the American influence across the Middle East. But much more than that, with their pressure against the international community, they try to cancel and slow down the sanctions against the economy, and that's a clear message. Stop the sanctions and we can cooperate together, United States and Russia and the international community against ISIS, and maybe in the end of the day find the solution for the terrible civil war over Syria. Okay. When we talk about the situation in Lebanon, the major players in Syria actually act in Lebanon as well. And I want to put on the table the question of why it's so quiet along the Lebanese border since the war had ended, the second Lebanon war 10 years ago. Why the Hezbollah didn't try to attack an Israeli targets in the last 10 years along the Lebanese border. You know, for the Israeli people and probably for the Jewish people all over the world, the second Lebanon war is type of many traumas, so many failures of readiness, so many failures in the battlefields. But in the end of the day, the other side, the Hezbollah suffered a lot of damage. They lost 700 terrorists, over 1,000 were injured. Those are real numbers for a small guerrilla organization, and they need time like we did in the last 5-6 years to reorganize the troops, to draft the new guerrilla fighters, to send some of them to Iran. That's what they did in the last 5-6 years. The second reason, you know, the young generation, even in the Shiite communities in southern Lebanon, disagree with the Hezbollah policy. They want to live in an open society. Everybody needs Facebook and internet. They definitely disagree to the Hezbollah policy all over Lebanon. They know that the damage to their families had suffered so much 10 years ago in the Second Lebanon War actually is part of the provocation of the Hezbollah against Israel along the border. The third point that I would like to emphasize, you know, since the war had ended, Israel and Lebanon signed what we call the UN Resolution 1701, which is the agreement that actually talk about the security arrangement along the border. And according to UN Resolution 171, we have a deployment of 15,000 multinational forces in the region. In this area, by the way, the eastern sector, we have a Spanish brigade deployed here. Don't worry, they're not going to fight for Israel. But the question is, are they effective or not? Unfortunately not, because according to their mandate, they cannot operate over all those villages in southern Lebanon where the Hezbollah actually build their bunkers, tunnels, and missile sites. And with the multinational forces deployment, the rearming process from Iran through Damascus to Lebanon continued in the last 5-6 years. Now here are the numbers. During the second Lebanon war, the Hezbollah used to have 30,000 missiles. The majority of them were short range, about 20 miles. Today, with the deployment of the multinational forces, they have over 100,000. They can target every Israeli targets all over, all the Israeli headquarters, all the Israeli Air Force bases. That's going to be a real challenge for Israel. By the way, we estimate that in any conflict in the future, the Hezbollah is going to launch at least 1,500 missiles a day to Israel. Now, that's true that we have 10 Iron Dome batteries. We're going to double the numbers next year. And it's true that the readiness of the Israeli home front is much better than it used to be 10 years ago. But again, it's a real threat and a real challenge for the Israeli society. But the most important thing is, it's quiet because the Israeli deterrence is still effective, because the Hezbollah leaders, They know if they're going to restart attacking an Israeli target, the Israeli response is going to be crazy. Now, how the civil war in Syria affect the situation in Lebanon? You know, for the Hezbollah and for the Iranian regime, the struggle for Assad in Syria, it's a critical struggle for the influence in the region. They know if Assad is going to go, the game is over. That's why they send over 10,000 terrorists from Syria to Lebanon to fight for Assad. Now, in those battles, the Hezbollah suffered many, many casualties. Over 2,000 deaths and over 5,000 injured. That's a real number. That's created a lot of demonstrations inside Lebanon against the Hezbollah policy. Because the Sunnis claimed the Hezbollah policy and said, you take Lebanese guys across the border to fight for Assad against our brothers, the Sunnis in Syria. That's unacceptable. And we saw the Hezbollah in Lebanon change their strategy since the war had ended, since the Second Lebanon War had ended. Instead of sitting on the Israeli border, they stepped back a few miles, and by purpose, they built their bunkers, tunnels, and missile sites inside civilian population, under the ground, under civilian population, because they know when the pictures of the civilian death come to the people in New York City, Paris alone, the game is over. And they use in a very cynic way the life of their people as a tool in their struggle against Israel. The second issue that I would like to emphasize, you know, the refugees issue, it's a terrible issue in this war. Now, we have 9 million refugees, 2 million crossed the border from Syria to Lebanon. All of them are Sunnis. Now, the total population of the Lebanese society is 4 million. Now they got another 2 million. That's going to affect this. You can imagine how it's going to affect the structure of the Lebanese society, how it's going to affect the ratios between the communities in Lebanon. That's why the Iranians and the Hezbollah are so nervous about it. But the third point, 80 miles from here, in northeast Lebanon, ISIS succeeded to occupy part of the Lebanese territory. And the Hezbollah is fighting with the Lebanese military forces against ISIS. And with those three challenges, fighting in Syria with so many casualties, the refugees issue, and the struggle against ISIS, the last thing that the Hezbollah wants is to open your front with Israel. The last thing that the Hezbollah wants is to give the Israeli pilots a wonderful opportunity to attack those missile sites that we know exactly where they're located. So that's why they keep this border very quiet. And if they decided to retaliate to any Israeli attack, they're doing it in Syria, which is not a country anymore, it's just a huge battlefield.